hatred, and desire wear the same mask in the dark. Celine's life ended the day her parents were murdered in front of her. Kidnapped by a crime lord and dragged to a palace of shadows, she becomes a prisoner with no hope of escape. But when his son walks into the room, Celine realizes hell has a new face. Before we begin, I need your help reaching 1,000 subscribers. If you love the stories of dark romance, hit that subscribe button. A tale of obsession, secrets, and dangerous love awaits you. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening to this story? At home? Commuting? Working out? Now close your eyes, turn up the volume, and let the darkness pull you in. Celine woke up to find her room tidy. Nothing like the way she had left it the day before. She was a messy girl, and her room usually looked like a disaster. But now, it was clean, thanks to her mother, who adored her. She got out of bed and glanced at the clock beside her. Her eyes widened in panic when she saw that it was already 10 in the morning, and she hadn't gone to work at her father's company. Yes, she was the daughter of one of the biggest businessmen in Spain. Celine gasped in terror. Oh my God, I'm late for work. My father will definitely kill me. She hurried to wash up and rushed downstairs before getting dressed for work. Downstairs, Celine's father was sitting at the head of the dining table, and beside him sat his beloved wife, Catherine. Their spoiled daughter was the center of their lives. Catherine asked playfully, "Did you tell Celine about today's outing, dear Leonard?" Leonard replied calmly, "No, it's a surprise." Their conversation was interrupted by Celine rushing down the stairs. She ran toward her father, looking at him nervously. "I'm sorry, Dad. I swear I didn't mean to. I just stayed." Her words were cut off by Leonard's laughter, echoing through the room, leaving Celine staring at him in confusion. Catherine added playfully, "Today you won't go to work. Your father gave you a day off." Celine frowned. "What does that mean?" Leonard smiled. "It means you should go change your clothes quickly, because we're going on an outing." Celine's face lit up with happiness. "That's great. Finally we're going somewhere. We haven't gone on an outing for such a long time." Catherine looked at Leonard. "Are we going to the forest, dear?" "Yes, dear," Leonard replied. "That's exactly where we're going." "I'll go change my clothes and come back quickly," Celine said excitedly. Catherine smiled warmly. "All right, my little one." Celine went upstairs and changed into blue jeans, a pink off-shoulder shirt, and white sneakers. She tied her hair into a ponytail before heading back downstairs. When she returned, she found her parents waiting for her. She approached her father and gave him a gentle kiss on his right cheek. "Let's go. We'll be late." Leonard nodded. "All right, let's go." They all walked toward the car. Leonard sat behind the wheel and began driving toward the forest. Celine sat in the back seat, while her parents sat in the front. They drove for a long time, and eventually, Celine grew sleepy and drifted off without noticing. Several minutes later, Leonard noticed black cars following them. Suddenly, without warning, the cars sped up and surrounded their vehicle. Leonard immediately realized what was happening and pressed harder on the accelerator. Catherine looked at him anxiously. "What is it?" Leonard clenched his jaw. "It's that scoundrel. I didn't expect him to carry out his threat." Catherine glanced at Celine, who was still sleeping in the back seat, and whispered softly, "I won't be able to give her up." Leonard replied firmly, "I won't give her up, even if it costs me my life." Their conversation was interrupted when another car suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their path. Leonard tried to turn right or left, but cars surrounded them from all sides. Realizing there was no escape, Leonard stopped the car and looked around as several armed men stepped out of the surrounding vehicles. Her parents got out of the car and closed the doors behind them. Then a tall man appeared, walking calmly among the armed men. Leonard glared at him with hatred. "You filthy bastard. What do you want from my daughter? Aren't the prostitutes you have enough for you?" Max smirked coldly. "My dear Leonard, I don't have a prostitute as beautiful as her, so I'll take your daughter instead. I liked her the first time I saw her in the meeting hall. She's as hot as hell." Leonard's eyes burned with rage. "Touch a single hair on her head, and you'll regret it." Max casually nodded to one of his men, signaling him to go to the car and bring Celine out. Then he continued speaking, so Leonard wouldn't notice. "My dear, you forced me to do this. Why don't you just give her to me peacefully? Give her to me, and I'll take good care of her." Don't worry. Leonard spat on the ground. That is, if I stay alive, you bastard. Max shrugged slightly. Fine. Suit yourself. He nodded again to the man standing beside the car. The man forced open the locked door. Celine suddenly woke up in panic and was startled by the huge man standing in front of her. She began screaming, but the man easily lifted her because of her light weight and dragged her out of the car. She cried and screamed for her father in terror. Leonard rushed toward her, but he collapsed to the ground after receiving a heavy blow to the head from one of the armed men. Celine looked fearfully at her father lying on the ground. She didn't realize that she was now standing very close to Max. As soon as she noticed him, she looked at him with tearful eyes, while he returned her gaze with a dark, dirty look. Max signaled his men to hold her parents firmly. Then he turned to Celine and slowly touched her cheek. "What do you think about coming to my house, little one?" he said with a cold smile. "I promise I'll make sure you're well entertained." Celine shook her head desperately. "No, no, I don't want to." "Get away from me, you bastard." Max looked at the man who was carrying her. "Put her down." The man put her down on the ground, but as soon as her feet touched the floor, Max grabbed her by the arm and pulled her toward him. Leonard shouted, "Let her go, you bastard, or I'll kill you." Leonard struck the men holding him, trying to break free, and ran toward Max to save his daughter. But as soon as he got close, he received an even stronger blow to the head than before. One of the men grabbed him and pressed a gun against his head. Max, clearly enjoying himself, pressed his body against Celine's and hugged her from behind so that her back was against his chest. At the same time, he signaled his men to aim their guns at Catherine, Leonard's wife. Max said calmly, "Stay calm, dear Leonard, or your wife will be killed." Leonard glared at him with fury. "You bastard. I will never let you take Celine, no matter what happens." Max chuckled coldly. "You are in no position to threaten anyone. Look around you. My men are everywhere. You and your wife are in their hands, and your delicious daughter is also in mine. Just surrender, Leonard." "Go to hell, you bastard," Leonard spat. Max sighed in irritation. "I'm tired of you, so I'll get rid of you and your wife. That way I'll have my little Celine without any disturbance." As soon as he finished speaking, he signaled his men. They shot her parents mercilessly. Celine couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Everything had happened so quickly. She watched the blood flowing from their bodies and began screaming and crying uncontrollably. "Dad, Mom," she cried, her voice breaking. She tried to run toward them, but Max held her tightly, preventing her from moving. She struggled to free herself, but his grip was too strong. She screamed at the top of her lungs and cried with all her strength until her body finally gave in and her consciousness began to fade. She welcomed the darkness. She fainted in Max's arms. Max carried her to his car and drove toward his mansion. When Max arrived at the mansion, he stepped out of the car and carried the girl inside. As he reached the main hall, he found his damn son Christopher, sitting calmly and coldly, like a king on his throne. Christopher's sharp gaze shifted from his father to the girl in his arms. A sarcastic sneer appeared on his face. "What's this?" he said mockingly. "Have you started bringing prostitutes to the mansion now, dear father?" Max smiled with amusement at his son's sarcasm. "No, this girl is different. She's Celine, the daughter of the businessman Leonard. She'll be living here with us in the mansion, so you can do whatever you want with her." Christopher's voice remained flat. "I have no interest in her." Max chuckled. "Who are you kidding? I'm sure she'll become your puppet sooner or later." Christopher ignored his father's words. He took out a cigarette and lit it. Max ignored him in return and went upstairs to his son's room. Max entered Christopher's room, placed Celine on the bed, and left, ordering the servants to prepare a special room for her. Then he headed to the main reception hall to rest, as it was time to eat. At Christopher's side, Christopher finished his cigarette and started eating when Max arrived and sat at the dining table to begin his meal as well. Meanwhile, Celine lay on Christopher's soft bed, slowly waking up and looking around absent-mindedly. After a few quiet moments, the memories suddenly crashed over her. Everything that had happened came rushing back, and the image of her parents being murdered flashed through her mind. She sat up in panic, tears filling her eyes. She grabbed the pillow, hugged it tightly to her chest, and buried her face in it, bursting into uncontrollable sobs. Christopher finished his meal and stood up, heading toward his room. Max called after him, "You haven't eaten anything, dear. Finish your food." Christopher replied coldly, "I'm full." Without another word, he continued walking. A few seconds later, Max suddenly jumped up from his seat. "Oh my God," he muttered. "I have to catch up with him. I have no idea what he'll do when he finds Celine in his room." Back to Celine, her heart pounded violently, as fear consumed her entire body. She didn't know what would happen to her. She buried her face in the pillow again, crying helplessly. "Dad, Mom, why did you leave me all alone like this? What am I supposed to do now? How can I live without you? I can't do anything without you. Why did you sacrifice your lives for me? Please, come back to me." Her crying was suddenly interrupted by the sound of the door opening. She lifted her head slowly to see who had entered. It was Christopher. He stepped into the room quietly, his sharp gaze fixed on the girl, whose body was still trembling with sobs. Who are you?" Celine asked through her tears. Christopher ignored her question and stood there proudly, staring at her. The only thought running through his mind was how a little prostitute like her could be in his room. Worse, on his bed, hugging his pillow and soaking it with her cursed tears. At that moment, Max entered the room. When Celine saw him, she instinctively pulled back, staring at him with tearful, frightened eyes. How could she not? He had murdered her parents right in front of her. Christopher spoke coldly. "What is this prostitute doing here?" Celine frowned slightly in confusion. How could he call her a prostitute? Who was this man to speak to her like that? The answer came quickly when Max said, "My dear and beloved son Chris, don't be angry. I only brought her here temporarily while their room is being prepared. She'll leave soon." Celine thought to herself in shock. He is his son. That means he's the son of the man who killed my parents. Christopher ignored his father and spoke again in a sharp, low voice that suited him perfectly. "Get up and leave. Now." Celine remained frozen, staring at him in shock. Her mind was too overwhelmed to process everything happening around her. Suddenly, she felt her cheek burning as her head snapped to the side. Yes, Christopher had just slapped her. Celine gasped in pain as she felt his hand grab her silky hair. Christopher pulled her toward him until her body was pressed against his, and her face was only inches from his. He whispered coldly against her lips, "I don't like repeating myself, little one." Max intervened quickly. "Take it easy, Christopher. Don't treat her so harshly. She's still too young for your violence and cruelty." Christopher looked at his father coldly. "Well, father, don't you think you've made quite a few mistakes today?" Max frowned. "What?" Christopher's voice was dangerously calm. "You violated my privacy by bringing her into my room, and now you're giving me orders, telling me how to treat her. As you know, I am not someone, and I mean no one, who tolerates having their privacy invaded or being given orders." Max smiled playfully, still thinking his son was joking. "Okay, and what are you going to do about that?" Christopher's eyes never wavered. "I will end your life." In one fluid motion, Christopher drew his gun and fired. Max collapsed to the floor, his body instantly becoming a lifeless corpse. Christopher released the strands of Celine's hair from his grip and shoved her to the ground. A few seconds of silence passed before it was broken by a light knock on the door. "Come in," Christopher said calmly. A strikingly handsome man entered the room. His sharp features hinted at the cruelty and brutality hidden within him, and he appeared to be about Christopher's age. "Do you know who he was?" "Victor, Christopher's close friend." Victor scanned the room, taking in Max's corpse and the blood spreading across the floor beneath it. His gaze shifted to Christopher, and he spoke with bored indifference. "It seems the cursed Max has finally died, but I expected you to play with him a little before finishing him off." "I'm not in the mood." Victor's lips curled with sarcasm. "What a lucky bastard." Then he noticed Celine sitting on the floor, holding her reddened cheek where Christopher had struck her. "It seems you're busy with someone right now," Victor said casually. "So I'll be kind this time and take this whore's corpse out of here." Christopher smiled coldly, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Thank you for your kindness and excessive generosity, my dear Victor." Victor matched his tone perfectly. "It's my duty." He grabbed Max's body and dragged it out of the room, leaving Christopher alone with the girl. Returning to Celine, she was lost, adrift in her thoughts as if she no longer belonged to this world. Strange emotions swirled inside her: pain, brokenness, and hatred. Yes, hatred. She hated Christopher with every fiber of her being. He was the son of the man who had murdered her parents, and now he humiliated her, struck her, and called her a whore. Not only that, but he had also stolen any chance she might have had for justice, ending his father's life with a single bullet. She had every right to hate him. Christopher remained seated on the bed, tapping his fingers slowly against his knee as he studied her. He observed her broken posture, the pain etched across her face, and the numbness in her expression. But what truly caught his attention, what stirred something dark inside him, was the look in her eyes: hatred, rebellion, defiance. Just minutes ago, he had considered throwing her out like a stray dog, but the depth of her hatred intrigued him. Her rebellious, resentful gaze awakened the devil inside him. He made a decision. He would play with her, toy with her. She would become his puppet, his personal source of amusement. He swore he would destroy her, turning her life into a living hell of humiliation and disgrace. He would make her wish for death, but he would never grant it. Not now that he had decided she belonged to him. Celine slowly lifted her eyes to meet his. She saw the mockery in his gaze, the cruel smile that seemed to steal the very air from her lungs. When their eyes met, all she tasted was terror and death. Christopher stood and began walking toward her with slow, deliberate steps. He stopped in front of her and crouched down to her level. Leaning closer, his lips brushed lightly against her right cheek as he moved toward her ear. She could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You've fallen into my hands, little one," he whispered. "Do you know what I'm going to do to you?" Celine's eyes widened with fear. His calm, chilling tone made her fragile body tremble uncontrollably. She shook like a leaf in the wind. "I will practice my hobby on you," Christopher said quietly. He smiled, a charming smile that showed how much he was enjoying this moment. But the smile soon vanished, replaced by cold indifference. "You have become my prisoner. There is no escape from my hands." Celine's body shrank in terror. Her heart pounded violently, pumping blood through her veins, yet she felt completely frozen, numb beneath the weight of his words. Christopher paid no attention to her fear. He reached out and grabbed a lock of her silky hair, letting his slender fingers trace along her cheek, feeling the softness of her skin. Celine groaned softly in pain when his fingers brushed against her swollen cheek. "Did it hurt you?" he asked. And strangely, this was his habit. He would ask as if he hadn't been the one who slapped her moments ago, as if he hadn't been the cause of her pain, as if the only thing he knew how to do was ask. Celine bit her lower lip and remained silent. Not a single word escaped her. No defiance, no indifference, only fear. Who could blame her? Christopher was terrifying in every state. When he was angry, when he was silent, even when he smiled. Behind every smile lurked a monster, waiting to devour you while you were still enchanted by his charm. Christopher, would you remain this unpredictable creature forever, or would something someday change you? A small square window pierced the darkness of the room. The only light came from a faint beam of moonlight, hidden behind thick clouds. Even the moon feared you, Christopher. How could you expect a 24-year-old girl not to? Celine hugged herself tightly and closed her eyes, hoping for sleep, or at least a moment of peace. But it was a futile wish. Her stomach churned with hunger and nausea. She wrapped her arm around her midsection and let out a soft, painful moan, a sound that could break any heart. Christopher sat quietly behind his desk, leaning back in his luxurious chair with his eyes closed. He had just finished some work when the image of Celine suddenly drifted through his mind. He smiled sarcastically at himself. Since the moment he had ordered her locked inside that room 3 days ago, he had not asked about her even once. He had completely forgotten about her existence. If anyone saw Christopher at that moment, their limbs would tremble. His gray shirt hung open, revealing the broad expanse of his chest. Darkness seemed to radiate from him, sending chills through the body. Yet he was undeniably handsome, dangerously alluring. What could anyone do? He was Christopher, a seductive, cursed devil. "I think I should go now," Christopher murmured coldly to himself, "and see my new puppet." He rose from his seat and left his office with steady steps. When he reached the room where Celine was held, he paused and closed his eyes, listening. The sound of her pain drifted through the door like music, as if Beethoven himself had risen from the dead to play his saddest melodies from within that room. Christopher pushed the door open gently and entered. He found her sitting in the corner, hugging herself, crying heartbreakingly. Strands of hair stuck to her tear-streaked face. He approached silently so she would not sense his presence. He lowered himself to his knees, staring at her innocent face, at the beauty she possessed. Celine sensed him near. She recoiled, pressing herself deeper into the corner, but Christopher moved closer. He looked at her face and wiped her tears with his hand. "Shh," he whispered. "Don't cry. I haven't done anything to you yet. You don't have the right to cry without my permission. I haven't given you a reason to cry yet, but I will." His expression as he spoke these words terrified her more than any shout could have. She had never been so frightened in her life. Her stomach clenched, and she groaned in pain. Christopher stared at her quietly, a sly smile forming on his lips. "Are you hungry?" He knew. The bastard knew she was starving. He was just playing with her. Celine did not answer. She remained silent. Christopher repeated his question, his tone more provocative. "Do you want to eat, little one?" Celine turned her face away from him. "I don't want poison from you, you bastard." She barely finished her words before Christopher slapped her hard with the back of his hand. Celine felt as if her head might detach from her body. "When you want to say something," Christopher said coldly, "say it while looking at my face. I don't like talking to people's backs." Celine gasped through the pain. "Damn you." Christopher's lips curled sarcastically. "Didn't I tell you before how beautiful you are?" That was the last thing she heard before he slammed her head against the wall. Celine nearly lost consciousness from the force of the blow. The room spun around her, the pain blinding. She tried to focus, to swallow, but it was useless. The pain was unbearable. Then she felt him pulling her by the hair, dragging her from the dark room toward his own. As soon as Christopher entered his room, he threw her to the ground and kicked the door shut behind him. He wet his lips and stalked toward her, grabbing her shoulders and forcing her to her feet. His voice rose as his hands crushed the bones of her shoulders, slamming her against the wall. "Don't you dare oppose me, little one," he snarled. "If you do, I swear I will make the sky weep for what I will do to you." His voice was terrifying, rough, harsh, dry, as cold as ice and as terrifying as fire. She lowered her gaze, but he gripped her jaw tightly, forcing her face up to meet his stare. She screamed in pain. His grip on her jaw was crushing, threatening to break bone. Christopher's annoyance flickered across his features. "Be quiet." Celine fell silent. She closed her eyes, trying to escape his burning gaze. He took his chance. He leaned in until no space remained between them. His lips touched hers, and her body trembled violently. He trailed his lips along her cheek, down to her neck. Everything about her tempted him. Christopher inhaled her intoxicating scent. Only a few seconds passed before he pulled away. He released her. It seemed it was still too early to make her his whore. "Go clean your filth," Christopher said coldly. "You will find clothes when you're finished." He left the room, ordering the servants to prepare clothes and a hearty meal for her. Yes, he wanted her to eat. She would need the strength to endure what he planned to do. Christopher returned to his office and threw himself into his chair, closing his eyes, seeking rest. But what rest could he find? That girl gnawed at his mind. How had he never noticed her beauty before? Or rather her scent. It was unlike anything he had ever known. It was bliss. He had never desired any woman the way he desired her now. The thought infuriated him. He didn't have time for this. Women from all over the world, actresses, models, crawled at his feet. None of them had ever ignited such fire in him. He forced himself to look at the papers before him, trying to distract his thoughts from that girl. For a moment he succeeded. Then the office door opened. Christopher didn't bother looking up. Only one person would dare enter without permission. His cursed friend Victor. Victor pulled a chair close and sat down carelessly. Christopher glanced at him, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, look what hell has thrown at us." Victor grinned. "Is that how you greet your friend, you bastard?" Christopher's voice was flat. "What do you want?" Victor leaned forward. "Today we received the Russian shipment. The Mafia there is afraid to deal with you after what you did in the last deal. Actually, everyone is. So tell me, what are we going to do? Christopher's expression was innocent. What? I told you I didn't mean to burn them alive. Victor snorted. Of course you didn't. You never mean harm. Not even yesterday when you cut off the hand of the German Mafia boss's son. That was just a misunderstanding. Christopher's eyes hardened. No, I meant that. The bastard tried to interrupt me while I was talking. We settled the matter. Victor's voice rose with anger. Oh really? Christopher met his gaze coldly. Don't tell me you're angry about that. I know what really angers you, that you didn't get to eliminate them one by one and tear their bodies apart yourself. So stop whining, you damned thrill-seeking killer. I swear, you make me want to burn myself alive. Do you know that? You're destroying my pleasure and my life. Christopher smiled sarcastically. Yes, but you love me. Victor sighed. And now what? Christopher shrugged. You handle their matter this time. Victor nodded. Okay, that's good. I'll go now. Then Victor immediately left, heading to his work, leaving that devil thinking about the little angel who had fallen into his hands. Night fell on the luxurious palace, and the moon shone its light across the grounds, casting a calm, gentle glow through the huge glass window, seeping into the room where she slept on the soft, comfortable bed. She was immersed in her dreams, wearing a short pink nightgown that reached mid-thigh. Fatigue had exhausted her as she thought about how she would deal with this monster, how she would stay strong and not submit to him. But in the end, fatigue overcame her, and she fell into a deep sleep without realizing it. At Christopher's place, Christopher had returned to his palace late at night, cursing angrily because Victor had dumped all his work on him, in addition to the Mafia business. He went to see that little girl who had stolen his mind. I swear I will shoot that bastard when I see him, Christopher muttered angrily. Then he headed to his room, hoping to get some sleep. As soon as Christopher entered his room, his eyes fell on that enchanting woman who slept deeply on his bed. Celine's appearance was tempting in every sense of the word. Her silky hair was scattered on the pillow beneath her head, framing her angelic face and those cherry lips. Oh, how he longed to tear them between his teeth and to ravage her alluring body as well. But Christopher quickly snapped out of it, cursing himself, annoyed by her effect on him and his overwhelming desire. He immediately changed into more comfortable clothes and lay down beside her on the bed, sinking into sleep without another thought. The next morning, Celine woke up and found no one beside her. Christopher had left before she awoke. She got out of bed with a lifeless expression and headed toward the bathroom. She splashed her face with cold water several times, then returned to Christopher's room. But this time, she left the bed and went toward one of the walls. Celine sat on the floor, staring into space, her mind about to explode as she thought about what had happened. Her soul burned with pain. She wanted to scream with all her might, but no sound came out. She was in agony, and her soul would continue to burn like this until she took revenge on him for her family. In another place, far from that palace, Christopher was sitting with his friend and right-hand man, Ricardo. Silence ruled the place at that moment. Ricardo sat quietly, watching his friend Christopher, who remained still, calming the storm of anger that had struck him a little while ago when one of the prostitutes came to entertain him. Unfortunately for that girl, he had imagined Celine in her place, which made him furious with himself for constantly thinking about her. Without hesitation, he shot the girl in the head, killing her instantly. To break the silence that had lasted too long, Ricardo's voice cut through. Did I tell you a joke? Christopher looked at him calmly, a ghost of a smile appearing on his lips, though he skillfully hid it. I'm not in the mood to hear your silly jokes. Keep them to yourself. Ricardo grinned. But it's a good joke, Christopher muttered. Damn you. Ricardo leaned back. Don't complain, Christopher. You won't find a great friend like me, no matter how much you search. Christopher's voice dripped with sarcasm. Yes, that's obvious. Ricardo stood. Let's go. Christopher raised an eyebrow. Where to? Ricardo waved him up. Come on, get up. I have a little show for you. When you see it, your mood will definitely change. Christopher rose. Okay, let's see your show. Christopher and Ricardo left their workplace and got into their car, heading toward Ricardo's show. After some time, they arrived at the German Mafia headquarters. Christopher looked at the building in front of him and said mockingly, Have you decided to switch from child killer to merciless man? Ricardo smiled. Come on, Christopher. We both know you're already merciless, You're the most despicable, depraved, vile scoundrel the earth has ever known. I just wanted you to lighten your mood without doing it yourself. Just watching a show that suits your filthy mindset. We cannot deny that burning people alive is one of your favorite hobbies." Christopher's voice was cold and cutting. "If you don't shut your filthy mouth, my dear, and finish your show, I will make you the first thing I present to myself after I cut it off." Ricardo pointed. "Look, here comes our dear Victor with his men." Victor approached, frowning. "What are you doing here, Ricardo?" Ricardo shrugged. "We came to watch tonight's show that you will put on for the German Mafia." Victor's expression remained flat. "Do I look like I've become a clown to put on a show for you?" Ricardo grinned. "Come on, Victor. Our friend Chris is in a bad mood. We need something to entertain him now." "Well, I hope the show pleases you, dear Christopher." Victor gave the signal to his men to burn the German Mafia headquarters and kill anyone who survived the blazing fire that would engulf the place. The flames rose terrifyingly, reducing everything in their path to ashes. The scene before them was gruesome, utterly devoid of humanity. But would that affect those devils watching without the slightest feeling? The death show they staged just for fun? I don't think so. After the death show ended, and the German Mafia was eliminated, Victor said calmly, "I'm going home to get some rest. Enjoy yourselves alone." Victor immediately left, leaving Christopher and Ricardo talking about the horrific spectacle that had undoubtedly impressed them both. In another place, specifically in that palace, that beautiful girl was sitting on the palace balcony, staring absent-mindedly at the garden. Her gaze wandered, while many guards surrounded the palace, working under the command of her cousin Victor. She sipped a little of her apple juice, as memories of her painful past with that savage cousin resurfaced. She had still been a little child, loving to play with her best friend Olivia, Victor's younger sister. Despite her love for playing with Olivia, she sometimes avoided going to her uncle's palace, for fear of meeting Victor. She had feared him since childhood. Victor was naturally mysterious and harsh, and after the death of her parents, he had become even more cruel and enigmatic. He always controlled her specifically, unlike others. When she wore short clothes, he would scold her, but not his sister. If she laughed a little too loudly, he would punish her by pulling her ear or slapping her. And it didn't stop there. When her parents died, Victor ordered her to be brought to his palace to live under his control. From that moment, her suffering began with the possessive monster, who showed no mercy to anyone. Emily snapped out of her memories at Olivia's voice. "What were you daydreaming about, dear?" Emily looked at her, her eyes tear-filled and deeply attractive. "About the painful past that crushed me with your brother." Olivia sighed sadly, wondering what she could do to help this girl, since no one dared stand up to her brother. "It's okay, dear," Olivia said gently. "The day will come when you find your happy ending. But for now, come inside. It's time for lunch and for Victor's return. As you know, the day won't end well if he finds you sitting alone on the balcony with your hair untied. So please come inside before he arrives." Emily nodded sadly. "Okay, dear." She went inside, holding her hair tied up in a messy bun, which made her even more alluring. She and Olivia went downstairs to the dining room, where each sat quietly, waiting for Victor to arrive. A few minutes later, Victor entered the dining room, his tall, slender frame commanding attention. He sat at the head of the table after greeting them, his eyes never leaving Emily. Olivia and Emily responded to his greeting, and they began eating. Victor finally felt he could breathe. He could hardly wait to finish his work and return to the palace to see Emily's angelic face, the one he had loved since she was young. Then he quietly began eating as well. Returning to Christopher, after the death show ended, he decided to return to his palace to see the little girl who hardly ever left his mind and haunted his thoughts. As soon as Christopher arrived, he headed straight to his room and quietly entered. Their eyes met the moment he stepped inside. Celine stared at him, with hatred in her eyes, while Christopher smiled calmly, his gaze fixed on her face. "What, does the little cat want to show her claws now?" Christopher said sarcastically. "Leave me alone. I want to go. I can't even stand to see you," Celine snapped. Christopher's smile didn't waver. "You're mistaken, my dear. You won't leave here except as a worn-out corpse. That's all." For the first time in her life, Celine saw true evil, deep and suffocating, in his eyes. "You will be my puppet," Christopher continued. I will do with you whatever I want and desire, and you have no right to object. Celine lost her mind. She quickly stood and attacked him with all her strength, but he caught her hands the instant she reached him. She struggled, but he silenced her by putting her hands behind her back and pulling her close until her body pressed against his chest. Her eyes were red from crying, her breath rapid, while his features remained perfectly calm. "Why? What do you feel?" Christopher asked sarcastically. "I feel nothing but absolute hatred for you, and I swear I will take revenge," Celine said, her voice trembling with anger. Damn, how much Christopher desired her in that moment. Her anger only inflamed his desire. Without hesitation, he pressed his lips to hers. It was a fiery, passionate kiss. Celine opened her eyes in shock and tried to push him away with all her strength, but it was useless. He was far stronger than her. Christopher continued, relentless, until her lips bled. When he finally broke the kiss, Celine gasped, struggling to breathe. "You are mine now. Your soul, your heart, your body, everything in you is mine," Christopher said, his voice low and possessive. "Or do you know how wonderful it would sound, hearing you scream my name while I break the bones beneath you?" Then he wiped the blood from her lips with his finger. Celine's anger flared, and she shoved him back. "I'd rather be burned alive than let you touch me. Leave me. Let me go." "I told you, you won't leave here except dead," Christopher said, his voice ice-cold. "Then kill me. Go ahead. Do it. I beg you. Just kill me," Celine demanded. Christopher sighed, bored. "I will kill you when I want, but right now, I'm not in the mood to spill your blood." Celine slapped him hard. Christopher's eyes widened in shock. No one had ever dared touch him like that before. She wanted to die badly, and since he only wanted her out of the palace as a corpse, she would force him to kill her at any cost. "So, are you in the right mood to kill me now?" she asked, defiance gleaming in her eyes. Christopher smiled, teeth showing in a flash of anger. She moved to strike him again, but he grabbed her hand. "I know what you're trying to do, but I won't kill you, little one. Not now, at least," he said calmly. "Why won't you? You disgust me. Your presence makes me hate myself. I never imagined I would end up with scum like you," Celine spat. Christopher wiped his face with his hand, struggling to maintain control, trying not to let her words shatter him. "Oh, Mr. Christopher, did my words bother you? Does the word scum upset you?" she pressed. He pulled his hand away from his eyes. Celine gasped and leaned back, seeing death itself in his gaze. Every step he took toward her made her retreat until she hit the edge of the bed. Christopher stopped, just inches from her face, smiling softly, his hand resting lightly on her cheek. "Maybe you're right. I am scum that disgusts you, but when I'm done with you, I'll make you hate me even more. You'll wish for death 1,000 times, but you won't find it," he whispered. Then he pushed her. Celine fell onto the bed, trembling with fear. She tried to rise, but he was on top of her in an instant. Fear was the only thing visible on Celine's face, and damn how beautiful that was in his eyes. Celine pleaded, "Stop. Get away from me." Christopher calmly unbuttoned his shirt. "Scream all you want. No one will hear you." He took off his shirt. Celine gasped as Christopher tore her dress, and she no longer heard anything except the sound of her own screams. The next morning, in that huge palace, that angel woke from her sleep. She moved lazily in bed, still wanting more rest. Eventually, she got up quietly and headed to the bathroom to wash thoroughly. After finishing, she left the bathroom and put on modest clothes that did not reveal her curves. She tied her hair into a bun and went downstairs without applying any makeup, not daring to disobey her savage cousin's orders. As Emily arrived at the dining hall, she found Olivia sitting at the table, waiting for her. Emily approached, pulled out a chair, and sat down. She added with a smile, "Good morning, Olivia." Olivia returned the smile. "Good morning, dear." Emily looked around, questioning, "Where is Victor? Isn't he having breakfast with us?" Olivia shook her head. "No, dear. He has an appointment with his friend Christopher, and has gone to meet him." "Ah, okay." Then the two girls began eating quietly. But the quiet did not last long. It vanished the moment a girl entered the palace, her loud singing filling the room. Olivia grinned. "Here comes our fiery, loud friend." Emily lifted her gaze from her plate to the girl standing before them. She was extraordinary, slender, with milky skin, bright blue eyes, and fiery red hair cascading softly down her back. Emily smiled warmly. "Welcome, dear Joanna. Come join us." Joanna smiled cheerfully, approached, and sat next to Emily. She grabbed the apple in front of her, took a small bite, and closed her eyes in delight. Emily and Olivia laughed at Joanna's childish behavior, prompting her to frown gently. "Be quiet, you two annoying ones. There's nothing to laugh about." Emily grinned. Yes, that's right. We're sorry." Joanna looked at Emily calmly and added with boredom, "So dear, when will you decide to change that style of yours? I almost swear you've turned into one of the nuns." Emily smiled sadly. "You know, dear, I can't break Victor's orders." Joanna's expression shifted to anger. "That damn Victor again. I swear I want to smash his face." Emily and Olivia laughed cheerfully at her outburst. Within seconds, Joanna's anger faded, and she laughed with them. After the laughter ended, Joanna looked around and asked, "Where is Victor? I don't see him here." Olivia replied, "He has an appointment with his friend Christopher, and has gone to see him." Joanna whispered to herself, loud enough for Emily and Olivia to hear, "He went to see Christopher, which means Victor and Christopher will be together. Damn, that means Ricardo will be there too." Emily and Olivia looked at her in horror, speaking in unison. "Don't tell me you're going to see them." Joanna smiled brightly. "Yes, I will." Olivia shook her head. "Damn your madness," Emily warned. "You will ruin your life one day with your reckless behavior." Joanna shrugged, bored. "It's not like I care." Emily sighed. "There's no point in talking to this girl." Olivia relented. "Okay, dear, but don't be late. You have university today." Joanna waved dismissively. "Don't worry, I won't be late. I just want to check on my dear Ricardo, then leave." She got up and left the palace. Far from Joanna, in that dark palace, Christopher looked at her calmly, taking in the marks covering her body. His gaze shifted to her angelic face, still showing traces of his slaps. He continued to stare at her for a few moments, his expression rigid, hiding the hatred and anger burning inside him. Yes, he hated her, every bit of her, and what fueled that hatred was his intense desire. Christopher straightened slightly, eyes falling on his favorite dagger, lying beside him on the bed. He grabbed it, stared quietly, then returned his gaze to the little angel beside him. Christopher approached Celine with the dagger, placing its sharp tip against her neck. All that ran through his mind was killing her. One move, one single move, can slit her throat and end it all. Nothing more. But he couldn't. Yes, he couldn't. That realization stirred the hatred and anger inside him even more. Despite wanting to kill her, he desired her. He wanted her intensely, and would not stop. Not now, not in minutes, not in days, nor even after centuries. Christopher smiled angrily, slowly moving the dagger away from her neck, but still holding it. He approached, until his face was only an inch from hers, whispering, "You know, I have come to hate every damn part of you. I hate you more than I should, little one." He brushed his lips over her face, voice carrying nothing but death. "But what I hate more is that I want you more than anything in the universe. I have never wanted anything in my life like I want you, little one, and that angers me. I feel angry because you're breathing in front of me, and leaving you alive, that angers me even more." Christopher stared at her for a few seconds, then stepped back before losing his temper and killing her. He dressed and left, heading downstairs to see Ricardo and Victor. As he reached the reception hall, he heard noise and chaos. Christopher muttered, "What is causing this chaos so early in the morning?" The answer came quickly as that fiery girl approached. Joanna exclaimed, "Oh my God, Christopher, you're getting more attractive every day. They should make it illegal to appear in public, because you take everyone's breath away." "That's a crime." Christopher smiled quietly at her. Madness did not do her justice. She argued more than she talked, stirred trouble, caused chaos, but part of her heart was kind. Joanna, enchanted by this smile, said, "I swear my heart almost stops from that smile. If I weren't madly in love with Ricardo, I'd make you my husband for sure." Christopher's tone was sarcastic. "That won't happen, dear. I want a woman to sleep with, not a crazy little girl like you." Joanna clutched her chest dramatically. "Oh, you broke my heart." Christopher ignored her words and headed to the backyard where Victor and Ricardo were sitting. As he entered, he greeted them and sat beside Victor. Joanna followed him. "My dear Victor, how are you? Still a scoundrel?" she chirped. Victor smiled sarcastically, about to reply, when Ricardo intervened sharply. "What are you doing here, little one?" Joanna met his gaze. "I came to check on my husband." Ricardo blinked. "What?" Joanna smiled sweetly. "Just as you heard. Come on, tell me how you are, my husband." Ricardo dripped sarcasm. "I'm not your husband." Joanna leaned closer. "You will be soon, and damn the heavens if I don't get you." Ricardo's expression hardened. "Don't you have university to go to, little one?" Joanna nodded. "Yes, I do." Ricardo waved her off. "Then go and give us a break from your annoyance." Joanna's eyes sparkled. "I will, but not before I do what I came for." Ricardo asked sharply. "And what do you want, little one?" Joanna's smile turned sly. "I want this." She pressed her lips to his and kissed him eagerly, lovingly, while Ricardo froze in shock. Joanna felt him stiffen, so she smiled against his lips and pulled away after tasting the bliss of the kiss. Joanna sighed dreamily. "My love, I wish I could stay with you, but I have university today, so I must go. Take care of yourself." Then she left the garden and the entire palace. Ricardo stood, still in shock. What just happened? By the creator of hell. Christopher's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You were just harassed," Victor added with similar sarcasm. "And maybe even raped, if she hadn't been in such a hurry." Ricardo glared at them both. "Damn you." But a small smile played on his lips at the madness of that fiery girl. He sat with his companions to discuss work matters. With the companions, Ricardo leaned forward. "So, dear Christopher, tell me, what happened with Leonard's daughter?" Christopher's voice was ice. "I left her upstairs, unconscious and bleeding." Ricardo sighed wearily. "Okay, I'll take her to the hospital for treatment." Victor raised an eyebrow. "And why do you care so much, dear Ricardo?" Ricardo smiled knowingly. "Because I want to keep my source of pleasure. She's the only one who makes Christopher act out of character." "Can you believe he killed his prostitute, just so he wouldn't think about her?" Victor's tone turned sarcastic. "Oh no, I don't believe it. Dear Christopher, you have a girl playing with your feelings." Christopher's response was cold, cutting. "At least I'm not the one burning every day in the hell of loving his cousin's daughter. So shut your mouth." Victor cursed under his breath and kept quiet, since Christopher had started the mocking anyway. Ricardo stood. "I'm going now." Christopher's voice was sharp. "Celine will not take a single step outside this palace." Ricardo met his gaze. "You won't stop me, dear Christopher. As you know, I don't involve myself in matters that concern you." He was right. Christopher knew this with certainty. Ricardo was a scoundrel, disturbed, but he never interfered in Christopher's or Victor's affairs. Their friendship came before everything. Christopher nodded coldly. "Fine, you can go." Ricardo smiled lightly and turned to leave. After some time, Celine slept deeply until the sun rose on a new morning. She slowly opened her beautiful blue eyes. She tried to move but felt terrible pain invading her body and soul. Her stomach was empty, hunger gnawing at her. Her eyes wandered around a place where everything was white. Sunlight streamed through a large window beside her bed. She blinked, trying to focus, until she heard someone enter. A nurse, in uniform, stood before her, deepening her confusion. Had that devil allowed her to leave his palace? Had he brought her to a hospital? Celine's voice was hoarse. "Am I really in the hospital?" The nurse nodded affirmatively, and gently examined her. Then the door opened again, and Celine turned toward the person who entered. She prayed silently it wasn't that cruel devil, but her wish wasn't granted. His tall figure appeared, broad body covered in tattoos. Celine gasped in terror, her body convulsing on the bed. He stood there, smiling, leaning against the wall, watching her calmly and patiently, taking in her appearance like a predator assessing prey. The nurse finished her work and left quietly, leaving the monster alone with the beauty. Celine bit her lower lip, trying not to break down. Pain still consumed her body. He approached. She retreated 2 steps for every step he took, pulling the IV drip down and feeling sharp pain in her hand. She touched the back of her slender hand, sank to her knees, and drew slow breaths as dizziness and a headache invaded her skull. She cast him looks no one could decipher. He bent down to sit on one knee, bringing his eyes level with hers. A wide, beautiful smile spread across his face, a deadly smile that stole her breath. Christopher whispered, "You know, you've been absent from me for 2 days, my dear, so I will take my right from you and destroy you." And truly, what destruction did he mean? He was already breaking her, destroying her every moment, silently surrendering. It didn't matter if he killed her, hit her, or did anything else. She had lost the ability to feel the day her parents were murdered. A strand of rebellious hair fell across her face. She pressed her lips together and raised her trembling hand to her forehead. Christopher smiled quietly. He grabbed her hand with crushing strength, pulled it toward his chest, and kissed her lips with passion bordering on violence. He crushed her ribs, sucked the blood from her lips in that brutal kiss, far from gentleness, far from calm. Moments passed. She felt the heat of her body, trembling under Christopher's overwhelming presence. She couldn't believe how unpredictable he was, how much he loved variety, even in torturing her. Christopher pulled back slightly, letting her gasp for air, letting her weak body try to find balance. She raised her head to see him smiling slyly, eyes roaming her slender form. Celine touched her lip and trembled. It hurt. The marks of his teeth throbbed and swelled. A small moan escaped her. Christopher lightly tousled her blonde hair, saying slyly, "I didn't know I would enjoy having you in my life so much, little one. It will be wonderful to remind you every moment that you are mine." As soon as he finished speaking, he stood tall and left the room, leaving her cursing her luck 100 times. Yes, the luck that made her fall into the hands of a devil like him. Christopher ordered the nurses to carry out the necessary procedures and discharge her immediately. He went to his car and waited. Seconds passed, then minutes, until the figure of that little one appeared, leaving the hospital accompanied by guards. The guard politely opened the door for her. Celine entered, sitting on the soft velvet seat as the guard closed it behind her. Christopher ordered the driver to head to the palace. The luxurious car sped through the streets of Spain. Raindrops fell, washing away the worries of the earth, and heightening the tension of the beautiful woman in the moving car. She stared at the frosted window, fogged by cold. The droplets flowing down the glass revealed glimpses of the road she traveled. Celine sighed deeply, continuing to gaze at everything her eyes fell upon. Soon, his voice reached her. She hadn't realized he had been watching her the entire time, observing her expressions as she reacted to the cold weather and the scent of rain. Christopher spoke in his cold tone, resting his hand under his chin and leaning his elbow on the edge of the car door. "Are you okay?" Celine froze, shocked by the question. She turned toward him, astonishment on her face, truly unsure how to answer. Was she really okay? Christopher's question scattered her thoughts. She remained silent, ignoring both the question and the intense gaze he fixed on her. Celine hugged herself, the cold biting her bones, making her shiver in his presence. He extended his hand, pulling her close to his chest, leaving her stunned by his unexpected tenderness, especially after his usual, deadly coldness. She didn't realize what was happening until she found herself clutching his shirt, holding on. Her body moved before her mind, seeking warmth and love. She had no control, as if her mind had detached from reality, allowing her to rest peacefully. Celine slept on his chest, while he ran his fingers through her hair. Her breathing steadied and calmed. Their appearance was serene, almost beautiful, as if everything between them existed in the strange boundary between limitless hatred and unending possession. In another place, far from Christopher and Celine, that angel walked through the streets of Spain, near her university, after finishing lectures for the day. Yes, she was alone. She avoided mingling with anyone except Sebastian, a diligent and kind friend. Their relationship was simple. He helped her with lecture notes whenever she missed class due to her cousin. Sebastian's presence interrupted her solitude. He carried an umbrella because of the rain and held the lecture notes from yesterday. Sebastian smiled warmly. "Here, these are the notes from yesterday's lectures." Emily's face lit with gratitude. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without your help over the past 3.5 years. Maybe I would have failed." Sebastian shook his head. "No need to thank me. You're always welcome." Before he could continue, a bullet pierced his head, killing him instantly. Emily gasped in horror as Sebastian's body collapsed, blood flowing from his head, trembling from both the cold and the shock. She could not recover from her daze, despite the hand that wrapped around her waist and the voice that followed. dripping with hellish tone. "Let's go, my angel," the voice said. "We must return to the palace." He pulled her along quietly, as if nothing had happened. He guided her into the car, driving toward his palace. In the palace, specifically that room, Emily sat on the floor, sobbing, curled around herself, staring at him with fear. Through rising sobs, she whispered, "Why are you doing this? What did I do to you?" Victor's tone was provoking. "I told you, my dear, you belong to me. Obey and don't talk to men. It's better if you don't speak to anyone at all." She straightened, grabbed his shirt with her small hands, and yelled, "He is a good person. He is my friend. How can you do this?" Victor fixed her with a deadly gaze. She fell silent, sensing the threat of his anger. He sighed, calming himself, and spoke quietly, "I do whatever I want. Besides, I didn't do anything to that man. It was just a bullet in the back of his head. I was kind to him. For your sake, little one." Emily looked at him, anger and shock mingling in her eyes. How could he do this to her friend? Speak so calmly, as if nothing had happened. How could he be so merciless? She screamed, "I hate you. I hate you. Don't you understand? I hate you from the bottom of my heart. Leave me alone. I hate." Victor interrupted her with a slap. She fell to the ground. This was what happened when his anger took over. He saw nothing ahead. He was furious, angry to the point of death. How could she say "I hate you" when he adored her, even adored the ground she walked on? And worse, all because of another man. Damn it! Victor's voice roared with overwhelming anger. "Say it again, and I will make the sky weep blood for you, my dear." Emily wiped her tears and straightened up, her features pained, but defiant. She would not cry. She had always known she was just a doll in his hands. Her voice trembled with anger. "I hate you. You are a savage, cursed man. You are not even human. How can you kill so cold-bloodedly? And now, my friend, stay away from me. Don't you understand? You are just a nightmare. A nightmare in my life. A nightmare that turned into reality." She was lying and telling the truth at the same time. She did not hate him. She loved him, and had feelings for him, despite what he did to her. He knew how to satisfy her soul and heart, and he also knew how to manipulate her mind and body. She told him she hated him to make him taste the pain instead of the pain she was feeling now, because he had killed her friend. So yes, she lied to him. But the truth was that she was indeed living in fear with him, fear of his anger and wrath, fear of his excessive jealousy over her, fear of the monster inside him. As for Victor, after hearing her words, he put his hand over his mouth to calm himself. He did not want to break her heart now, and damn it, he loved her, wanted her to become his wife. He paced back and forth in the room, but it was no use. The girl was making him lose his temper. He looked at her angrily, remembering that all this was because of another young man, because of another man. He walked toward her and slapped her again, sending her to the ground. Fear began to take hold of Emily. Her body started to tremble, but she did not remain silent. "You are not a man. Stay away from." He interrupted her with another slap that pushed her backward, making her fall onto the bed. Victor's voice was terrifyingly calm. "Answer me, dear Emily. I am not a real man, am I?" Emily fell silent in fear, and did not answer. She had lost the ability to speak, as she watched him staring at her without a word. She knew she had played with fire when she spoke to him that way. She knew that behind this calmness lurked an approaching storm. This was Victor, whom everyone feared, and she was like everyone else. She feared him. The next morning, Emily woke up, feeling the soft sheets around her sculpted body. Pain throbbed in her hand. She looked at it, and found an IV drip connected to her vein. She moistened her lips with the tip of her tongue, unaware of the one devouring her with his gaze, and also unaware of her body, which was covered only by the sheets draped over it. She gasped in fear as she saw him sitting on the couch. He held a glass of fine wine in one hand, and his cigar between his fingers, bare-chested. The damn man had a body that would make anyone crawl on their knees for him. His brown eyes, mixed with hints of green, created a magical blend. His soft black hair was tousled carelessly, as if he hadn't slept for a while. His sharp nose and handsome features. He was a scoundrel in every sense of the word. Anyone who saw him wouldn't believe he was in his 30s. And let us not forget to mention his amazing chest muscles, which she had never seen before. Well, actually, how could she have seen them? Even the TV was kept from her so she wouldn't admire anyone she saw. Her phone contained only his number and the numbers of Olivia and Joanna. So how could she have seen anything? Emily swallowed nervously. Every bone in her body ached like hell. She smiled sarcastically as she remembered what had happened. Last night was the first time she had screamed at him like that. She had always been the submissive girl who never raised her voice, but his killing of her friend, right in front of her, so coldly, had made her lose her mind, made her scream at him, insult him, even belittle his manhood. And damn him, he made her pay the full price, without any reduction. He crushed her body in his hands. If only he had stopped there. No, he also played with her body comfortably, and forced her to say things she never imagined in her life she would say. Emily spoke from the depths of her body's need for something she did not know, and could not identify. Her breath was heavy, because of that damn man who was doing wonders between her legs. Ah, damn you, she gasped. I hate you, Victor. I hate you. She felt his body stiffen. She closed her eyes in pain as he bit her thigh hard. She screamed and tried to push him away, but his teeth sinking into her flesh made her lose her mind. He licked the blood from her thigh. He pressed his forehead against hers, his hands playing with her as he pleased. Victor's voice was low and dark. You said a word you shouldn't have said, my little one. I warned you about that. Emily bit her lips hard, holding back a moan. His hands did not stop what they were doing. Stop. Stop, she pleaded, biting her lips until they bled. Victor smiled angrily and continued his act. Why, my dear? Don't you like what I'm doing? Come on, Emily, beg for more. And damn him. Just minutes ago he had made her say things she never even imagined saying in her dreams. Now he wanted her to beg him for more. A second passed. 2 seconds. 3. Her slap was the answer he received. She pushed him away and ran toward the door, but Victor had locked it with the key after entering. As for Victor, he was lost in thought about her. Damn the touch of her soft hands on his cheek. Was there anything better than this? Certainly not. But it was okay. He could punish her once again. Emily tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Then she felt hot breaths on her neck from behind, and hands tightly gripping her waist. He kissed her neck violently, and left his marks there. She tried to free her body, but he didn't let her. After that she only felt her head being crushed against the wall. She felt a hot thread on her head before losing consciousness. Victor's voice came from far away. I didn't intend to hurt you like this, my little one, but unfortunately, you made many mistakes today. Emily snapped out of her daydream at the sound of the door opening. A maid entered, carrying a tray full of all kinds of food. Emily looked at the food without appetite and turned her face to the other side. As for Victor, he was, as usual, sitting on the couch in that same appearance, staring absent-mindedly at her captivating beauty. Damn her and her body, that aroused feelings in him he had never felt except with her, ever since he first saw her when she was 5 years old. She was a unique female. The features of childhood still radiated from her face, and her scent resembled that of a child, mixed with the perfume of her femininity. She was beautiful, possessing the innocence of childhood and the charm of seduction. She could seduce even the devil himself. She was a girl in the prime of her maturity and youth, and the question was there anyone like her? No, there was no one like her. She was killing him slowly, a desire stirred by that damn thing inside him. How could she not, with her enchanting beauty, that blonde hair, her eyes the pure emerald color, her full red lips that made him swear there was nothing sweeter. Anyone who saw her would swear she wore lipstick, but she did not. She was just like that. And let us not forget her small nose and her red cheeks, more delicious than pomegranate blossoms. Victor smiled with pain. He had beaten her severely yesterday, then played with her body until she lost her mind and consciousness, after he smashed her head against the wall. The damn woman had suffered a drop in her body temperature, so he spent the whole night applying warm compresses to her and kissing her from time to time, while she babbled his name all night. Victor's voice was deadly cold. Eat the food. Emily looked at him with bitter sarcasm and did not respond. Victor smiled angrily and added, So, do you want to continue what we started last night, my little one? She did not answer him, but pulled the sheets around her body. Victor approached her and placed the tray of food in front of her. Victor's tone was ice. Eat the food. Emily's voice was hoarse. I have no appetite. Victor grabbed a spoon of soup, held her jaw firmly, and put the food in her mouth. Emily coughed violently as she nearly choked. Victor's voice was firm. Come on, open your mouth. Emily opened her mouth slightly, and that bastard fed her. He kept force-feeding her until the food was finished. Emily looked at him wearily, pulled the IV needle from her hand, and ran to the bathroom to empty her stomach. She only felt a hand patting her back and another lifting her hair up. When she finished, he removed his hands from her, and she looked at him quietly, very weakly. Victor felt her weakness and saw that she could barely stand on her feet. He moved closer and carried her in his arms. He placed her feet around his waist while squeezing her tightly in his hands, then gently moved his hand over their back. Only a few seconds passed until he felt her body relax in his arms, a sign that she had lost consciousness. She was still exhausted from yesterday's punishment. He headed toward the bed, laid her down, then brought one of his shirts and dressed her in it. He wrapped her well with the blanket, placed a kiss on her forehead, and left to go to work. In another place, specifically at that prestigious university, Joanna was sitting in the lecture hall, lost in thought, thinking about that thief he had stolen both her heart and mind. Damn, how skilled a thief he was. How could he not be, when he was her scoundrel Ricardo? Joanna smiled like a fool as she remembered Ricardo's features after she kissed him that day. She didn't know where she found the courage to do it, but she did it in the end. Joanna snapped out of her daydream at the sound of the professor giving the lecture at that moment. The professor's voice was sharp. There is no place for slackers in my lectures, Miss Joanna. Either focus and pay attention to your lessons, or leave now and never come back to my lectures. Joanna looked at the professor and replied coldly, Fine, then I will leave. She took her bag and left the hall, actually, the entire university, to walk through the streets of Spain. Joanna walked, bored, thinking about the love of her heart and soul, Ricardo. She truly missed him. Damn, when did she ever stop missing him? She missed him every moment and every second, even when he was near her. After a long walk and deep thinking, Joanna decided to go to her beloved Ricardo and leave a small gift for him as an expression of her love and also to get his attention. He, damn him, was not easily attracted to anything. He only liked strange and crazy things. She would give him something that suited his sick mind. She was sick like him too, but the difference here was that she was sick from love, from her love for him. After some time had passed, specifically in the palace of that scoundrel, Ricardo was sitting quietly at the bar in his room, surrounded by an aura of evil and mischief. Don't be surprised. He was a mischievous devil who loved playing and having fun, but not playing with dolls. No, he played with people's lives. He held in his right hand his elegant glass filled with aged wine, and in his other hand, one of his cigarettes, which he finished every morning. His eyes were staring at the body of that beautiful girl lying on his bed. Damn, how enchanting she was, with that alluring body that stole breaths and captured minds. But would that affect our dear Ricardo? How could he feel aroused by a dead body? Yes, that damn man killed that girl as soon as he woke up, because he hated waking up and finding someone beside him. He spent his nights sleeping with girls and woke up alone in the morning. If the opposite happened, the girl would die, and that was exactly what happened with this girl. A few seconds passed, and silence ruled the place until it was broken by the sound of light knocks, followed by the entrance of a man. Ricardo's voice was calm. What is it? The man spoke nervously. Sir, your car outside is completely damaged. It seems someone tried to break into it to steal. Ricardo raised his eyebrows in surprise. Who would dare do that? And for what? Theft? Ricardo remained calm. Fine, I will go down to check the matter. As for you, take this corpse out of here and get rid of it. Then end the lives of the two guards at the gate. I no longer need them. The man nodded. Yes, sir. Ricardo left his room and went downstairs to see what had happened to his car. When he reached it, he stopped and stared at the damaged vehicle in shock. The car's glass and all its lights were shattered into hundreds of pieces. There were also dents on its body, as if a meteor had landed on it. It was clear that this was not a break-in for theft. It was deliberate. Ricardo noticed a heart drawn in red on the back of the car. He approached quietly and stared for a moment, reading what was written beside it in red lipstick. I hope my gift pleases you. Yours, Joanna. As soon as Ricardo read these few words, he burst out laughing. Yes, that's what happened. He burst out laughing, and for the first time in his life, his laughter was sincere and pure. Damn it. Despite the fact that every time he pushed that girl away and kept her at a distance, she still wanted him and was determined to make him fall in love with her. Damn her. She was the only girl he wanted to keep away from his madness. But the opposite happened. Every time, that little one proved to him that there were no limits to her madness and recklessness. Ricardo smiled to himself. You really are something, little one, and I like that. As time passed, that beautiful woman opened her eyes and looked around while her eyelids slowly focused, trying to figure out where she was. A great warmth surrounded her chest. She lifted her head to find her body covered in a large, soft bed with a silky smooth blanket. A few seconds passed, and she remembered that this was his room. She smiled sarcastically. She stared at the ceiling, her face devoid of any expression. Her whole body screamed in pain. She had not yet recovered. But this pain was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. Her eyelids were red, but the tears refused to fall. Maybe all of this was just a nightmare. Yes, maybe she was asleep now and would wake up to find that none of it was real. She closed her eyes quietly, but the pain was still there. Everything that happened to her was real. She opened her eyes, put her hands on her head, and moved slowly to sit up. She felt the pain in her body, but swallowed it down and rose with heavy steps toward the bathroom. She entered and closed the door behind her. Although she was silent, volcanoes boiled inside her. She turned on the water and stepped under it, washing her body with a stiff expression like stone. When she finished, she wrapped the towel around herself. She walked toward the mirror to lift her hair, but froze as soon as she saw her reflection. She kept looking at herself for a long time, then with trembling fingers touched the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes withered, and there was a wound on her lips from his brutal kiss at the hospital. Celine continued to study herself, then noticed the marks on her shoulders, arms, neck. Her entire body bore blue bruises. Only then did she come to her senses. She had not paid attention to her body's condition while at the hospital. Celine put her hand over her mouth and screamed at the top of her lungs, but that scream had no sound. She did not want anyone to hear it, so she muffled it with her hand. She felt like she was suffocating. Celine sat on the floor, her hands still covering her mouth, and her tears raced down. She sat in that position while everything that happened that night replayed over and over in her mind. The pain was terrible. Damn, how much she wished to die at that moment. But the only thing that stopped her from ending her life now was her deadly desire for revenge against Christopher. This was what she must live for from now on. Yes, she would take revenge on him sooner or later. Celine slowly got up and lifted her hair off her face to take a deep breath. She turned to leave. As for Christopher, he was standing by the bar in his room, shirtless, wearing black pants, and holding a glass of whiskey. But he turned to her as soon as she came out, finding her staring at him coldly. Christopher's voice was casual. "What is it, beautiful?" Celine's tone was ice. "Let me leave this room." Christopher raised an eyebrow. "Where to?" Celine met his gaze. "To hell. It really doesn't matter. I just don't want to be in the same room with you." Christopher kept staring at Celine, watching with enjoyment the looks of hatred and anger in her eyes. He drank his glass in one gulp and walked toward her. Celine involuntarily stepped back. Despite her strength in speaking to him and confronting him, her body had a different opinion. As if it had a mind of its own, it was insanely afraid of him. Celine kept stepping backward until she hit the wall behind her. Christopher stood in front of her, trapping her between him and the wall. Celine swallowed nervously. Christopher smiled when he saw her reaction, stared at her quietly for a moment, then gently extended his hand and softly placed his fingers on the wound on her lip. Christopher's voice was low. "Does it hurt?" Celine looked at him in shock, unable to believe how contradictory he could be. He was the one who hurt her, yet he was the one asking about it. Really? What was this Christopher made of? Celine's voice trembled with anger. "No, it doesn't hurt. So take your filthy hand off me." Christopher's tone turned provocative. "Really, my dear? So we are both filthy now. Come on, admit it. You wanted that, and your body was welcoming me." He placed his nose against hers, continuing his speech. "This is what angers you, isn't it? Not what I did to you, nor the humiliation and violence you endured, nor even that I am the son of your parents' killer. No, it is your desire for me after all that. Celine felt weak because of his words. He was right. Yes, her body had responded to him despite everything. So without realizing it, her eyes began to shed tears silently and weakly. Christopher stared at Celine's tearful face, moved his hand over her soft cheeks, and wiped her tears away. What is it, little one? Are you crying because your body obeyed me, or from the pleasure you felt? Celine's voice was weak, but fierce. I hate you, Christopher. Did you hear me? Christopher's smile was cold. Yes, you hate me because you lost complete control over your body with me. Anger flared inside Celine. She quickly wiped her tears and said sharply, Take your filthy hand off me, and don't you dare think that by this act you have defeated me. No, you won't be able to do that. Not now, and not later. Do you understand? Well, we could now say that the monster inside Christopher was struggling to come out. But if he allowed it, it would end with Celine dead. So without any warning, Christopher buried his face in her neck, inhaling her intoxicating scent, the one that made all his demons go away. Christopher talked to himself while still inhaling her fragrance. Ah, damn this girl. Her scent drives me crazy. Damn. What did you do to me to make me want you this much? Christopher lifted his head after he was satisfied with inhaling her scent. It seemed his demons had calmed down as well. He stared at her quietly, looking into her eyes. Celine's voice was sharp. Get away from me, you bastard, and take your filthy hand off me. Christopher smiled wickedly and whispered softly to her, No matter how much you try to push me away to kill me, you won't succeed, dear Celine. I'm the only one who decides when to end your life. You are mine now, and from now on, you will spend all your nights screaming my name. You will wake up every morning, naked in my bed. I will do things to you that your little mind has never imagined before, and when you finally lose and beg for mercy, then we will see who is the filthy one between us. Because from now on, dear Celine, you are nothing but a whore. Not just any whore, no, but my personal whore. Celine's voice burned with anger. You will never break me no matter what you do, and all I will live for is to take revenge on you. Christopher's smile didn't waver. If you knew how much I like your fierceness, you wouldn't have said what you just said. But never mind. Let me enjoy this a little. Celine started to speak. You are a... Christopher interrupted her words with a kiss. Yes, damn him, he kissed her, stealing her breath. It was a brutal kiss, as if he had never kissed a woman before. Celine tried to pull away, tried to push him off, but all her attempts failed. He was strong and solid like a rock. As for Christopher, his hands traveled over every part of her body. Despite all that, Christopher did not understand why this girl made him lose his mind like this. He had been with hundreds of women before, but he had never felt this way with any of them. He knew her body was burning in his hands, but her not returning the kiss drove him crazy. He dug his fingers into her neck, making Celine gasp in pain. Christopher stepped back a little to breathe slowly. Why don't you surrender, little one? Just surrender. It's not that hard. Celine was panting, but her voice was firm. Never. Christopher's eyes darkened. Fine. We'll see how long this game lasts. He pulled the towel off her, throwing it to the ground. Celine bit the inside of her cheek so he wouldn't see how terrified she was, so she wouldn't cry in front of him now. She stared at him and what he was doing to her. Inside, she wondered if there was any description for the pain and suffering of her soul, pain that felt like it was tearing her insides apart. Damn her cursed life that made her live under the same roof as the son of her parents' killer. Christopher and life were two sides of the same coin, and she had come to hate them both. With those threads woven by both his hands and this palace, he worked to bind her as his eternal prisoner. But alas, as long as her heart beat and pumped blood, she would not submit to him. She would not be easy to catch. Rather, she would be his worst nightmare, and would remain so. Celine spoke to herself before closing her eyes and drowning in the sea of his demons that toyed with her. I vow hatred and resentment, Christopher, and perhaps my heart will grow darker. I will kill you and leave your body to the rabid dogs. The days are between us, and tomorrow is near for the one who waits. Revenge, fear, love, passion, hatred, resentment, injustice, tyranny, and power. Could all these come together? Maybe. Who knows? The next morning, that beautiful woman woke up quietly. She got out of bed, yawning sleepily because it was a holiday and she had no lectures or anything to give her a headache. She entered the bathroom to take a quick shower, and came out, changing her pajamas for a beautiful blue dress that reached mid-knee. It was cinched at the waist, with a wide black belt. She looked like a beautiful mermaid who had just come out of the sea. That beautiful woman left the palace. Feeling very bored, she got into her car and went to roam the streets of Spain. Joanna was absent-minded, thinking about that madman who had stolen both her heart and mind. She was so distracted that she didn't realize she was driving her car toward his palace. She drove very fast, not caring about the terrified people walking in the streets of Spain, and also not caring about the police car following her because of her crazy speed. Nothing stopped her except a utility pole she crashed into, waking her from her distraction with the collision. Joanna blinked in surprise. "Oh, I'm now in front of Ricardo's palace." Then she continued angrily, "Damn, this pole wasn't here before. Where did it suddenly come from like this?" Joanna directed her angry looks toward the pole as if she was about to argue with it. The sound of knocking on the car window interrupted her gaze. She looked out to find a police officer standing in front of her. Joanna sighed with boredom, got out of the car, and stood before him. Joanna's tone was flat. "What is it?" The officer's voice was stern. "You have committed many violations, miss. You must come with me now to the station." Joanna's eyes widened. "What? Okay. Listen to me carefully. Just go to hell, because I am not going anywhere." The officer's jaw tightened. "Your behavior is unacceptable, miss. Please come with me calmly." Joanna crossed her arms. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere. Damn it." The officer reached for her, trying to handle her by force and pull her away. But Joanna, with a quick and light movement, took the officer's weapon and pointed it at him. The officer froze in place, scared and shocked. This was truly unexpected. Who takes a police officer's weapon and points it at him? Surely no sane person would do that. But here we were talking about our dear Joanna, who had nothing to do with rationality. So it was okay. Joanna waved the gun. "Go away. I won't." What is happening here? Joanna's speech was cut off by that voice, the voice that made her body tremble and her heartbeat accelerate so much that she could barely catch her breath. Yes, this was the effect of Ricardo's love on her. Joanna's voice came out hesitantly. "Ricardo?" The officer explained. "This girl committed several violations by driving her vehicle at high speed, in addition to damaging the electricity pole belonging to your palace. Therefore, I asked her to come with me to the station, but she refused and caused all this commotion." Ricardo's voice was calm and commanding. "This girl is under my care. Leave her alone, officer." The officer hesitated. "Okay, but what about her violation of driving at a very high speed?" Ricardo reached into his pocket and handed money to the officer. "Take this as payment for that violation. I think we're done here, right?" The officer nodded. "Yes." Ricardo dismissed him. "All right, you can go now." The officer nodded calmly, turned, and left. Ricardo then directed his gaze toward Joanna, who stood beside him, staring like a fool. Ricardo sighed lightly. "What are you doing here, you little troublemaker?" Joanna's voice was small. "I came to see you." Ricardo stared at her silently for a moment. Then he turned and headed inside his palace without another word. Joanna stared after him in shock. Did that bastard just ignore her? Yes, he did. She cursed under her breath and followed him inside. She found him standing in front of the bar in the reception hall, his back turned to her. Joanna's voice was sharp with anger. "Why are you ignoring me, you bastard?" Ricardo's voice was ice. "Stay away from me." Joanna's voice rose. "What?" Ricardo turned slightly. "As you heard, little one. Don't play with me. I have no problem with you acting like annoying whores, because I simply don't care about you. So just stay away from me." Ricardo's words were like arrows piercing Joanna's heart. If only he knew that everything she did was to get his attention. Behind every smile or laugh she made, there was a heart broken into many pieces. She was deeply in love with him to the point of death, and he did not pay her any attention. The pain she felt every time he ignored her or spoke harshly was terrible, but she hid it behind a fake smile and rude words. And now, his telling her that she did not matter was killing her slowly and painfully inside. But she did not show it. Instead, she smiled and moved toward him, pressing her lips against his without any warning. It was an unexpected act in such a situation. Ricardo tried to push her away, but she threw her body onto him, causing him to crash into the bar behind him. Ricardo was shocked by her boldness, But as soon as he regained his senses and recovered from the shock, he pushed her away forcefully. Glaring at her angrily, Joanna smiled, showing her lower lip with delight. Joanna's voice was playful. "I kissed you twice. The first kiss was at Christopher's palace, and the second is here. So I think you should marry me quickly. So when is the wedding?" Ricardo's voice was cold and cutting. "You crazy whore. Go and treat yourself before your actions cause your death someday. And be careful, little one. I am not your friend to play with. Just stay away from me. I only let you play a little because I pity you. So don't be annoying and foolish, and forget who I am. Now get out of here." He walked away, turning his back to her. Joanna's smile disappeared instantly, and her eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath to hold back her crying, but her expression was pained. She bit her lips hard to avoid crying. She was truly tired of him burning her heart every time. Why didn't he see her? Why didn't he feel her? Damn, how much she hated and despised herself repeatedly because of him. Joanna closed her eyes tightly to regain her strength and hide the pain in her voice. Then she called out, "Wait a little, Ricardo." Ricardo stopped climbing the stairs as soon as he heard her voice. He turned toward her, staring coldly. "What?" Joanna's voice cracked. "Why can't you understand that I, damn it, love you? Come on, tell me." Ricardo smiled quietly. "You don't love me. Stop fooling yourself." Joanna's voice rose with anger. "No, you are the one who should stop saying this nonsense. I love you, you bastard. Not only that, but I am ready to do anything to prove my love to you. Just give me a chance." Ricardo stared at her quietly for a long moment. "Okay then, you want a chance to prove your love to me?" Joanna nodded eagerly. "Yes." Ricardo's voice was flat. "All right, come with me." He descended the stairs he had previously climbed and headed toward the back garden of the palace. Joanna followed quietly. Ricardo stopped in front of the water within the boundaries of his property. He looked at it, then at her. "Dry the water from this pond. Once you finish that, you will have truly proven your love for me." He stared at her quietly, expecting her to refuse, insult him, or do anything. By the creator of hell, this was not a pond, it was a deep lake. Drying it up was pure fantasy. No sane person would accept that. And damn, was Joanna ever rational? Of course not. She was far from it, as far as the earth was from the sky. She was completely crazy, like the madman standing beside her. But the difference was that his madness far exceeded hers by many degrees. Joanna met his gaze calmly. "Okay, I will do it." Although Joanna's answer was somewhat surprising to Ricardo, he spoke coldly. "Then start from this moment. You don't have much time, little one." Ricardo turned and left the garden, then the entire palace, leaving that little girl to dry the water of that lake.